Have you ever heard of this game called Manhunt?
It is some of the most horrific, senselessly violent stuff you've ever seen.
Actually do the stabbing. So you grab the knife, you are over your victim, plunging the knife into the victim. Players simulate various acts of murder, from strangulation to stabbing. Should parents be...
Would you buy it? Heck yeah, I'll buy it.
The little franchise made by Rockstar Games has been wrapped up in so much controversy that it's almost a necessity to give at least a small rundown of all that controversy that ended up making the series Rockstar's black sheep before getting into the actual video. Manhunt, the first game, came out in 2003 to mixed response, especially from critics and a little lawyer known as Jack Thompson. Many just didn't understand what Manhunt was about. Even the employees from Rockstar didn't quite get it, thinking the violence was just a bit too much. Glad they got over that. Either way though, it was still successful enough to warrant a sequel, and that's what we're going to be getting into. Now, first, I'd like to pass it to one of two people who helped me with this documentary, as he goes into the past of Rockstar Vienna. Take it away, Innocent.
Hello everybody, I'm Innocence, and today I'm going to tell you the curious tale of Rockstar Vienna. On January 4th, 1993, a company called Neo Software was created by a group of friends, Hans Seitfert, Nicky Laber, and Peter. I'm not even going to attempt pronouncing that name. Throughout the 90s, they released a few games, some of them were successful. In 1997, Peter, weird last name, left for a company called Digital Domain, but he stayed a shareholder of Neo Software. In 1999, a German media company called Computer Tech bought a 51% majority stake in Neo Software. Computer Tech say they bought their share because of the success of Rent the Hero and Alien Nations. Let's have a look at the gameplay of some of these games, shall we?
Ich sollte mich beeilen. Wer weiß, wie lange das Gitter oben bleibt.
That's good, is it? What's good about that?
The deal between Neo and Computech was to close by the end of 1999, and the studio would receive 2 million Deutschmark of Computech's media stock. Computech, after the deal, wanted Neo to make 2 online games and generate 7 million Deutschmark each year. Computech later ended up selling Neo Software to Gameplay.com in February 2000 for 11.8 million in cash and 35.8 million in Gameplay.com shares. At some point in late 2000, Take-Two ended up with Neo Software and Gameplay.com acquired Toga Holdings, and in that deal, Take-Two and Gameplay ended up in a joint exploitation deal which allowed Take-Two to purchase Neo Software. With Take-Two Interactive being able to do whatever they want with Neo Software, Take-Two Interactive turned it into Rockstar Vienna, where they'd only work on the Xbox ports of GTA 3, Vice City, and Max Payne 2. And Max Payne 1, I forgot to add. After the release of Manhunt in 2003, Rockstar Vienna was assigned to create a sequel to Manhunt in 2004. The game would end up in development hell up until 2006 when the studio got shut down. Yep, everything gone, instantly, just like that.
Wow, so everything's just gone tits up. I mean, how mad is that? Headfuck or what?
To add insult to injury, the team wasn't even credited in the credits for Manhunt 2. Jurie Hornemann, the producer of Manhunt 2, would say this in his blog: "I am disappointed and outraged that Rockstar Games tries to pretend that Rockstar Vienna and the work we did on Manhunt 2 never happened. The work of over 50 people who put years of their lives into this project, trying to make the best game they could. I am proud to have been a part of that team." This story doesn't really have much of a happy ending. Koch Media bought the studio in August 2007 and incorporated it into Deep Silver. After rebranding as Deep Silver Vienna, they ended up developing the game Cursed Mountain on the Wii. Nicky Laber left the studio in December 2009, and Seitfert announced his intention to leave the company by January 31st, 2010. Koch Media later shut down Deep Silver Vienna, and the studio would be gone for good.
Thanks, Innocence. I really appreciate you for taking the time to help me with this documentary. Don't worry, for those who liked Innocence, he will be back soon enough in the documentary. As he stated, after Neo was acquired by Rockstar and rebranded to Rockstar Vienna, it worked mostly on Xbox ports until the fateful day they were given the opportunity to work on Manhunt 2.
betrayed us, Danny. They ruined our lives. What are we gonna do? We're gonna fight.
Manhunt 2 was released in 2007, and curiously enough, had absolutely no controversy.
It's American stores tomorrow, and it's making a lot of noise. There's an international outcry against it. Manhunt 2 is so violent, it's been banned in Britain. In fact, you may not want your kids to see the preview of this game in Daniel Seberg's Eye on Technology.
Just in time for Halloween comes one of the scariest video games ever seen.
And now to this video game, so horrifying it has been banned in Great Britain. It is now set to be released here in the U.S. on Halloween. It is called Manhunt 2, and we must warn you, there is nothing about this that is not disturbing.
Tonight, a violent video game pulled from store shelves.
Manhunt 2 has been the target of criticism since its release a week ago. Now Target is doing something about it.
Okay, that was a lie. It had even worse controversy than the first game, being banned in several countries and getting an adults-only rating in America, meaning it was practically impossible to buy. Even to this day, it's still considered abandonware on PC because of the adults-only rating, and it's clear Rockstar didn't care for the game's outrage it caused. However, if you remember, Innocence brought up the fact that Rockstar Vienna wasn't credited in the final release. I'll be linking the list of the Vienna creators in the description so that they can finally get the credit that they deserve. Not only that, but I have a special treat for all of you later in the video. I managed to speak with several of the original creators of the game, and they were able to share some insights that I cannot wait to get into. However, I am getting ahead of myself. It's time for the documentary to start properly as I go into my search for the PSP Alpha. First heard of this alpha from a YouTuber by the name of Badger Goodger when he created this video. And after hearing of an alpha to a game that I love so much, that had such a troubled development process, is out there, I knew that I had to learn all I could of this version of the game. So I started small. Some Reddit posts here and there asking for information about the alpha. That's when I was introduced to the second person who was helping with the documentation. He goes by Nostalgic Bananas on YouTube. And he was the one who introduced me to Innocent. I can't stress enough, without Nostalgic, this documentary most likely would be dead in the water. He gave me some footage of the alpha, which I will be showing off later in the video. He also gave me some information on the owner of the alpha, a man by the name of Soren. This guy is seen as the villain of the Manhunt community. However, it's not that simple. Some people would have you believe that he was hoarding the alpha all to himself, with no intentions of releasing it. However, that's not exactly the case. Soren was working on fixing the alpha until he got in trouble with Take-Two. So I completely understand him being cautious about this build. I had the pleasure of interviewing Soren about the alpha, as well as Freakler, another person who has access to it. He was the one who created the plugin that bypasses the security measure that Rockstar had implemented. Soren explained that there was a security protection that I mentioned a minute ago, as well as the fact that most levels crash and only the menu was fully operational. I then reached out to Freakler on Twitter, and he explained that his plugin more or less nopes out the function call, skipping the security protection. He also mentioned that there were two UMDs, one of which Soren owned, and they were both leaked from Rockstar Lead, the company that worked on the PSP build. This was around the time that the alpha was first picking up traction, so understandably they didn't want to share too much about the product. So after learning all I could from that, I was able to get the PDF that contained all the alpha's textures, which I will also be linking in the description. Not much of interest is in the PDF, except for some things I will be discussing later on. However, one thing that stands out is that the JEC construction company, which is largely believed to be a reference to James Earl Cash, the protagonist from the first game, had a different name. It was originally called Final Build Construction, which is the name of the construction company in GTA San Andreas. I then started reaching out to Manhunt 2 YouTubers. Specifically, I reached out to the Manhunt Dude and Voltigor, the creator of Razor Moon. Out of respect, I will not be going into his mod or sharing any images he shared of his mod. If you want to see the mod for yourself, I will be linking it in the description, and I encourage you to check it out. The Manhunt Dude, as you may or may not know, uploaded a video about the alpha before it was later removed and re-uploaded to YouTube by a YouTuber named Something Someone. The Manhunt Dude was the first to respond to me, and we had an interview that revealed something that up until now was only up to speculation. And that's the reason for the removal of the videos from him and another YouTuber by the name of Michael Grant. The interview started with me asking why the video was removed, and the response he gave was that they wanted to keep it a secret due to possible legal troubles with Rockstar and Take-Two, and that Soren had petitioned to have them removed so they can be kept secret for the same reasons. Aside from him being a part of Dixmoor's Discord, he didn't have any information about the alpha other than him having access to the Michael Grant video. However, he was unwilling to share. That's when I reached out to Voltigor. At first, Voltigor didn't respond until I was able to get in touch with another name in the Manhunt community by the name of Hirschberg. He was able to show footage of the alpha that was uploaded to Michael Grant's video, which up until that point was not public. This is the footage in question.
Patience, we are currently experiencing some minor difficulties. For your own safety, please remain in your rooms.
We need a weapon. Get a syringe from the supplies office.
After me and Hirschberg had an interview, I was immediately contacted by Voltigor, as he and Hirschberg are friends. I was able to conduct an interview about his mod, about the alpha, and while unfortunately he didn't have the alpha, he did give me invaluable information that helped with the documentary, as well as his opinion on whether or not the alpha would ever be made public. He told me that the Dixmoor Discord wasn't removed. It was made private. This came as a surprise to me, as I had heard it was removed by several people. He goes on to explain that the alpha had in-game cutscenes. He also had the PDF, which is how he was able to achieve some of his mods. The homeless people in Red Light District had Tramp from the first game as a placeholder. The guy from Beast Honeypot was a perv instead of a pimp, and there was a swap model that isn't in the base game. As for his opinion on the alpha, he didn't believe the alpha would ever leak. Other than that, though, we talked mostly about his mod, which, as I said earlier, I will not be discussing in any way. There was another name that kept being brought up while doing research on the game, a YouTuber by the name of Jim. He had videos allegedly playing the alpha. However, his comments were disabled, so I couldn't really get in touch with him. After doing some research, however, it appears his videos were fake. That would explain why he disabled his comments. Luckily, I didn't spend too much time trying to track him down. I'd like to pause here for a moment and bring up something Voltigor said. He mentions the fact that there was in-game cutscenes, and he sent me this image. This was something very interesting. Not just the fact that the game had in-game cutscenes, which retail version of the game didn't, but the image had underscore cut, which looks strikingly similar to this image. Now, this may not mean anything to you, but it did mean something to Innocence, who will be explaining how he saw a video uploaded to Michael Grant's channel, which had Frisbee in it. Take it away, Innocence.
I remember seeing Frisbee sitting in one of the cells in the basements of Sexual Deviants. It was this cell, in fact. With the camera zooming in and out and shaking around a bit. My theory is that Frisbee was a placeholder to test the camera. Now this could be real because we did find his textures in the level.
Now at first, Innocence believed he may have made the story up as a false memory, as he explained. However, the evidence suggests otherwise. Then I got in contact with a YouTuber by the name of Richtefin4200. Apologies if I mispronounced the name. He's known for creating the Vienna Cut mod of the game, and he was also the person who created the iceberg that showed up on Source Brew's video. His interview is unique in the fact that it was one of the only ones that I had done that was a voice interview. So please enjoy some clip from that interview.
Alright, so first things first, this interview shouldn't take too long, maybe 15-20 minutes tops, so don't worry about being here too long.
Yeah, no worry. That's okay for me. I can maybe take about 1 hour in case we go further. But that's okay. No problem.
All right, no problem. So first, I'd just like to ask how you got into the Manhunt community.
Well, how do I got to know this game? It's a very long story. Since I was a kid, in fact, the first contact I got with the Manhunt game was, well, nearby my home, there was a Blockbuster, which now, unfortunately, is closed, no? I was very young, maybe about 8 years, 7, I don't know. But I've always had a joy for survival horror games, for horror themes, even horror movies. So I went to the video game section, and I saw the cover of Manhunt there. At that point, I didn't understand English very well, but what I could definitely tell is that the game had a mature rating, which for me meant that, okay, this might be serious stuff, I might check on that later. And the time passed by, and we are now in 2020. The pandemic is at its top peak. I'm locked in my house, and I'm scrolling through Pinterest, and I found the cover of the game again for the PS2, and memories came rushing back to me, and I thought, man, I need to play that game. I need to know what it is about. And oh boy, I was shocked to see what it was about. In fact, I think I have never been more terrified of playing a video game other than Manhunt. In fact,
Ah, yeah, that makes sense. Man, so you saw it when you were really young, huh? Blockbuster.
yeah, but I never played it when I was that age. Only until this age right now. I'm 25 right now.
So, when you played it around 20, you said 25, yeah? How did you really enjoy it? Was it a good game?
Yeah, it's one of the best games I have ever had a chance to experience in my life. It's a horrifying game in a good manner, and it's also a well-designed, crafted game. It was made by Rockstar North, which were the developers of the famous Grand Theft Auto San Andreas and Vice City. And well, the quality of the first game, it speaks for itself.
What about the sequel? How did you come across that?
Well, after I finished the first game, I thought on getting my hands on the sequel because, for obvious reasons, it will be the next logical step to do, right? I mean, you play the first game, why not play the second? I have diverse thoughts with the second game. That's why I made the Vienna cut, in fact. The OG release of Manhunt 2 by Rockstar London for the various consoles of that time, I find it very lack of quality. First, let's talk about the premise of the game. I think any people who has played the game can notice that Leo Casper is an alter ego of Danny. Is a fictional character. I mean, he's not real. It's a double personality issue. I think most of us can notice that, don't you?
Yeah, from the very beginning.
Yeah, so my problems with the second game were that the quality was, like I said, thrown over the ground. I don't know why they shut off Rockstar Vienna. I think they could have done a fantastic job if their original vision could have been completed. And how I played the first time I played Manhunt 2, and I think that's a good thing for me. I played it on the Nintendo Wii. One thing I can say about it, it's an amazing immersive experience. Beside all the glitches and problems the game has, the immersion the Wii had at that time, it's very frightening, and I can see why parents throw their shit all over the place over that game releasing on such a familiar console.
So circling back to your Vienna projects,
yeah.
How's that going so far?
Well, that has concluded for me. I have uploaded all the chapters I wanted to YouTube. The game will no longer go into further development as I don't have the resources or the personnel to continue doing that. Maybe what I would like to do at last, the only thing I could not personally afford was swap the levels. How do you say? The level order. The level order that I portrayed in my YouTube channel, that's how I wanted the game to originally be. I wanted to swap the story, change the facts of the original game, and make a more compelling product in comparison to the original Manhunt.
Specifically, one that caught my attention was the recorded line of Danny's wife getting killed.
Okay, what's the matter with that?
No, there was no map. I was just curious as to where you found that dialogue at.
Where that dialogue comes from the original intro. It comes from the original intro, and also in a game cutscene for I think it's one of the latest chapters when Danny finds about that he killed his wife.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So how did you get a hold of some of this information? Is what I'm trying to ask, I guess.
I got it from many other YouTube videos, also from the game files. When I was doing the Vienna cut, I was trying to add some dialogues to the game, but that's also another thing I could not do because the files needed a specific codification for them to be properly read by the game, so I could not do that. And I found some of the unused voice lines in the game's files for the PC version. So that's how I knew, okay, this was actually supposed to happen because they were left over here. They were not used, but they're still here. So they were intended for a purpose at the beginning. Okay.
Have you heard about this beta or alpha that somebody bought for the PSP version of the game?
Yeah, I've seen some videos about it on Reddit. I think it's fabulous. It's fantastic. It looks like Vienna stuff because Danny has the old skin. I think it's still even some older animations on it, right?
So yes, I believe so. I think the guillotine animation is there.
Yeah, so I think it's really pre-beta stuff. So I hope it comes eventually out one day so we can analyze it further and see what other secrets it may contain about this game. Because that's right about you say. The second game has a lot more secretism around it because its development was much more troubled than the original Manhunt. Rockstar treats this game like they want to forget about Manhunt 2 happened. They don't have much trouble with the first game because it's still being sold on multiple platforms and it has new console re-releases like the PS4 and the Xbox Series 1 and X, if I'm right. But the second game, like I said, they want to forget about it. It's like it never happened, and they treat it like abandonware now.
With that, there wasn't much left. We had hit a wall. Things had slowed down a bit. We had thought the well ran dry, but we were determined to keep pushing. That's around the time that I started reaching out to developers from Vienna, and for a while, no one had responded. I thought it would take a long time before any information came out, but just as we started to get dejected, I was able to get a hold of some developers. They wished to remain anonymous, of course, and I will respect this. However, there were some who reached out and rejected the offer, explaining that they were still under NDA or just outright didn't want to do it. One of which was Jurie Hornemann. He, however, did give us his blog, which, if you remember, in a sense talked about earlier in the video. The blog will be in the description, along with everything else. I recommend giving it a read. One major thing that was revealed in Jurie's blog was the fact that there was an Xbox port of the game that was unfortunately canceled because Microsoft said that they didn't want the game on their console. First game was on the original Xbox, so there's a pretty big likelihood that the controversy of the first game, as well as the outcry of the second game was already accruing before it was even released, swayed Microsoft's decision to not want the game on their platform. There were several others I was able to thankfully get an interview from. They were able to give some more insights on why Rockstar might not have been super thrilled with Rockstar Vienna, and explains in more detail Rockstar's decision to shut down the company and move the game to another studio. However, this still doesn't excuse Rockstar for leaving out the names of these fine individuals who did months to years of hard work in the credits of the final game. One of the devs went on to say that they had awful architecture back then, especially when working on UI, and that the game was based off of a GTA engine. They believed it was 3, but are unsure. They also believe a lot was cut from the final game because of gore. They, however, weren't able to tell me for sure, as they didn't keep up to date with the game, as it wasn't their kind of game. They believed Rockstar was not happy with the progress of the game at the time of closure. They only had around 30 employees, so they believe that Rockstar assumed it wasn't worth it to keep the company open. They did go on to say that they didn't get an official reason of closure from Rockstar themselves, and that this is all guessing on their part. Another dev went on to substantiate the claim, however, that Rockstar wasn't happy with how the game was coming along, by saying that there were lots of unnecessary meetings, wasting a lot of time with things that could have been said in a few minutes, and that engineers laughed at the code of Rockstar North, which in fact was not too high quality, but they themselves didn't do too much better. And finally, the key thing they noticed was that they didn't produce any good output. Everything always took longer than planned, and was of lower quality than promised. They kept showing demos of little things here and there, but no real progress. And that's when I told my two friends to consider looking for other jobs, as I didn't think the higher-ups at Rockstar were too pleased with the lack of results, and it was just a matter of time before they took the projects away. They go on to say they quit because of a conflict with an immature manager, and then overheard a few months later that the employees one day showed up for work only to find the doors closed and guarded by some security, previously unheard of in Austria. They had to make personal appointments to collect their belongings, and that was that. They did hear, however, that Rockstar took some of the better employees and moved them to a London office. The interview ended with them explaining one more reason why Rockstar may have been upset with the company, saying they seemed to spend a lot of money on others' parties, though Rockstar generally weren't too stingy on that. And particularly the old crew, Neo Software, went on expensive weekend getaways in some luxury hotel/spa for extended weekends to discuss work matters, and that these work matters never really resulted in anything actually happening. After interviewing the developers, we were sure that there was nothing left to discover until we got our hands on the alpha itself. But that's when I asked Soren to join the Discord, and he actually let me in. Then there were several pieces of information that we were just not privy to that came to light. For instance, the game was 2 months away from being done before Vienna got shut down.
Frisbee was a dummy object and was never the guy on the shoulder. Danny was the eye on the box.
The mouse shown in some flashes is also Danny. Apparently, all the faces shown are Danny's. There was originally a different type of brainwashing images.
This is a day that will go down in Manhunt history. On this day, the alpha leaked to the community, and with it, a floodgate of images, videos, information, and more came bubbling to the surface. With information comes documentation, and this alpha has a lot of information. So for the last portion of the video, I'd like to go through each and every mission and document the changes. And since it has the least amount of commentary, and I'd like to give my voice a break, the first thing will be to show the differences in executions, as well as some cut executions that up until this point only had audio clips public. Before that though, when you start up the game, the teaser trailer plays with some cut lines, and I wanted to show it here in its entirety.
My name is Daniel Lamb, and I live in hell.
Where do your loyalties lie? With your family or with this project?
Every day they feed me, and then put me to sleep. I know nothing else.
What seest thou that lurks in the dark backward in a prison of time?
The guy in the next cell says they experiment on us.
They made you sick. Remember, Danny? They ruined both our lives. Never let us go.
What the hell did I do to deserve this? Tonight, if we get the chance, we're all getting out.
Now, on to the executions.
This sound has not been built yet.
They've seen us. You're gonna have to deal with those orderlies before you get in the truck.
Project. Set up.
What? 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 What?
Battle is where it all starts, in the frontal lobe.
What?
Some of you may be asking why I didn't show off any of the environmental executions. Well, for one, if I go and show off every single aspect of the game, then there's nothing left for you guys to enjoy. Also, a lot of them look like this.
Oh my goodness!
Hello, my name is Nostalgic Banana, and I will be doing 2 voiceovers for 2 missions. Thanks to Heretic for allowing me to do this, and allowing me to be part of the video. Thank you to the community too, they were very helpful, and just thank you guys for the love. Alright, I'm gonna quit jibber jabbering and get to it. Everyone knows how Manhunt 2 starts. There's an exterior shot of the asylum, lightning bolt strikes, and unlocks all the cells. Well, in the alpha, the cutscene doesn't exist. Instead of that, it cuts to Danny choking Dr. Whiteout. The interesting thing about this is there's an actual cutscene in the game, like rendered in-game, not just some FMV or BIC. And the interesting detail about this too is we actually see him get out of the bed. As in retail, we do not see that. Before Danny screams "shut up," we actually hear his wife's voice. This makes the scene make sense in a way, or at least gives us an insight as to what Danny was telling to shut up.
Shut up! Shut up!
Transitions are completely different from the retail version. Leo's lines are also different. Here's what he says in the retail version.
A scout ahead, Danny. Get your head straight and follow me. What? That's it, Danny. Listen to me, and I'll get us out of here. Don't let these crazies spot you. Move into the shadow. They can't see you in the darkness.
Here's what he says in the alpha.
Danny, you follow me whenever you're ready. Try to get past your fellow inmates without them seeing you. Move into the shadow.
First 3 cells when you start the game are all Leo. Well, the wacko counter per se. The textures are still there and the models are still there, but they haven't been implemented yet, so I guess they're just using these as dummies for right now. Well, not dummies, placeholders. If you make a noise, Leo comments on saying that the hunters can hear sound.
If you make a noise, they'll hear you.
I don't believe that this is in the retail version of the game. Also, there is no nurse to execute. Instead, you get health and then the wacko fight happens. Leo tells you to patch yourself into the retail version of the game, but in the alpha he says find a weapon in the supplies office.
Your weapon. Get a syringe from the supplies office.
And the thing about that is too, the security area in this version, you can actually enter the door and not have to lure him out of the security area, as in retail. You can just open the door, execute him, and kill him. There's a jump scare that also happens in the upper area where in retail you fight the wacko. It's a door on the right side, and if you go in first person, there would be this kind of wacky animation that plays. It doesn't really fit as a jump scare, which is probably why they removed it, because it just looks jinky as fuck. So, after killing the nurse in the security area, Danny says,
"It's wrong to kill. Don't tell me that it's not."
Leo then appears and the camera shifts to show the way forward. There was most likely meant to be dialogue here, but it's an alpha, it's broken. That's how all alphas are, really. The guy that runs into the wall when you're going to the elevator does not make an appearance in the alpha. I think this was added maybe last minute in the game, but Dr. Pickman is still at the end of the hall to the left. He has placeholder dialogue telling Danny to get back to his cell.
Stop this foolishness, Danny. Return to your room immediately. Resnick, see that someone escorts Mr. Lamb back to his cell.
When entering the elevator in the retail, you see nurses and inmates fighting. However, in the alpha, the inmates are T-posing, and only the nurses have proper animation. There isn't anyone beating the dead nurse like in retail, and the pen you pick up is moved a few feet over by the benches for some reason. Leo also doesn't tell you to slow down or reach in the corner where the guy gets attacked, like he does in retail. After the straitjacket inmate runs off the edge of the balcony. That's right, the exclusive Wii model that was used in the Wii for the guy that runs into the wall, and the Wii version was used here. It was planned to be in an original game, but ended up just being a Wii exclusive for some reason. The nurse that was in there with him before he runs off the balcony has some cut dialogue.
Control. I had to do a little therapy with Gibbs, but we're pretty quiet now.
Once you reach the bottom floor to do the door puzzle, instead of the guy that comes out of the second door to jump scare you, he is actually moved to the final cell to jump scare you and attack you.
Sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to mention that the inmate in the bottom cell spews out religious messages in the retail version.
Behind me, Satan! Step in. Veil of illusion has slipped.
The character in the alpha still has religious speech before you go down there to get jump scared by them, but in the alpha, it's just lines cut straight from Max Payne, presumably as a placeholder.
The corpse in the final cell isn't there anymore because it was replaced by the guy that jump scares you. After killing the guard watching the security cameras, there's a walkie-talkie that says, "Look!"
George, is that wing secure yet? George! George!
In retail it says this. The room here is almost exactly the same as retail, minus the inmate's jumping animation. There is a cutscene that plays after jumping out of the window that isn't in the retail.
Don't scare the loony. No big deal. We're fine. All under control.
And there is no audio for jumping into the garbage truck, but there is a cut dialogue where you have to hit a switch of some sort to open the gate to get to the garbage truck, which I'm currently restoring in my 0.01 work in progress project.
second mission doesn't start having anything of interest until after the first cutscene. Once gaining control of Danny, you can see Leo's model is just standing there, rather than him disappearing after the cutscene like he does in the retail version of the game. This helps to hide the fact that Leo is just a split personality in Danny's head. Although that doesn't seem to be a thing that they were trying to do in the alpha version, because Leo will sometimes say, "It's been a pleasure sharing your brain, Danny." The
It's a pleasure to share your brain, Danny.
minigame tutorial that plays here is moved to later on in the basement of Danny's house. When opening the door in retail, you can hear sobbing. This isn't in the alpha of the game. The alpha's version of the ghost at the sink stays longer, and there are lines from Danny's wife's death. However, the subtitles say, "Sweetheart, what happened to you?" Leo then directs you to find a flashlight, instead of telling you to search all the trunks and cabinets.
The project happened here. We need to get your flashlight.
When entering the first room, this plays in the alpha.
This is bad. Something real bad happened here. What happened, Leo?
But this plays in retail.
You will not remember anything before this moment. You will not remember us being here.
Jesus, my head.
Danny's daughter's ghost is running from a different room, and the dialogue that plays here in the retail
Am I going crazy?
plays later on when searching for the medicine. You also hear Dr. Pickman erasing Danny's memory when searching through the house.
You will not remember anything before this moment. You will not remember us being here.
When you find the medicine, there's a cutscene of Leo walking up behind Danny, instead of a shot focusing on the box, while Leo tells you to look for a syringe. The outro of this mission and all others happens after the scorecard. The outro is also extended from the base game.
Go ahead.
Leo?
That's right. But we don't have time to reminisce. Getting out was just the beginning, Danny. The project can't let us live. They can buy a private army if they want to, and they will.
Why did I leave myself these?
Forget about that. The project betrayed us, Danny. They ruined our lives, and now they're after us again.
What are we gonna do?
We're gonna fight back.
That scene isn't that different other than the fact you see Leo scaling the wall with Danny. When you first enter the level, there isn't a cutscene of Leo explaining who the pervs are. Earlier on in this video, Heretic said he wasn't going to show any environmental executions, but he's about to make an exception. The cutscene of the dancer leaving the stage is slightly longer.
Bye, boys.
After killing all the pervs and opening the door, there isn't the flashback of all the dancers on the dance floor. When entering the dance floor, this cutscene is lacking dialogue. Instead of the fire axe being on the wall like it is in the vanilla game, one of the hunters are holding the axe and you have to kill him. When you sever the guy's head and take it to the basement door.
Hey, George, come on in. Say, you're looking a little pasty today.
The slider actually works. This is surprising since it doesn't happen in the retail PS2 or PSP version.
I don't recognize that face, and only faces I recognize get in. Get the fuck out of here. Hey, George, come on in. Say, you're looking a little pasty today.
Particularly gross scene with the guy that gets cut in half, but it's actually different in this alpha.
I'll be back in a minute. Hey, I got us a new toy to play with.
Puzzle in the basement is actually kind of different. You have to go through a hidden door in the electric chair room to a room next door with the Iron Maiden in it. There used to be a dentist chair in this room, but it was moved to a different room. Speaking of the Iron Maiden, there's actually a different execution for it in this build. Drumroll please for the execution you've been waiting for the most, the guillotine. The guillotine is in this build. Specifically, in this room.
I'm definitely not getting into heaven now.
That's it for Sexual Deviance, my personal favourite level in this game.
No words can explain this cutscene, so let's just watch it, shall we?
We've got to check out that safe house.
Don't trust that whore.
She wanted to help.
Wanted to help? She wanted to save her own fucking
I'm
neck.
gonna find a way in.
Think, Danny. The Project are everywhere, and they're watching. You're gonna get us both killed.
As I've already discussed, the tramp from the first game was a placeholder for the hobos in this mission. The king's ripping out the guy's tongue doesn't happen in this version. Instead, it was supposed to be them throwing someone out of the window. Unfortunately, though, it is just subtitles as the scene was never actually worked on. There's 2 people watching the TV instead of the 1 in retail. Also, the flashes of images in retail doesn't happen in the alpha version. Similar to the king's cutscenes, the cops beating the man also isn't finished and is just text on the screen. There is a small puzzle where you have to throw an item at a counterweight to lower the stairs. This isn't in retail and is ashamed it was removed as it actually adds some use to the throwables in the game, which are considered largely useless in the final version. The final cutscene has no dialogue and looks like this. So, we're all friends here, right?
Oh, friend!
You know who used to be friend? Mission 5 starts with the cutscene of Michael being held up by Danny. This happens in retail too, and not much changes throughout this cutscene other than the fact that Danny's model is completely broken. The broken model's textures can be even found in the PDF under the name Broken Model. Curiously enough, there isn't any huge changes to the cutscene or the mission structure. However, there are small changes here and there. For instance, the models on the Hunters, which were a generic green military-type outfit in the final version of the game, actually had more unique designs in the alpha, as shown here. The Sugar Machine's weight bar was on the side rather than the top. And the Hunter's dialogue wasn't finished at certain points of the mission, and only show subtitles for what they're supposed to say. Unfortunately, we don't know if there are any changes at the end of the mission as it crashes after killing Michael, although it's safe to assume not much of importance has changed. The intro to this mission isn't finished, and it's just Danny and Leo standing there, staring at each other, trying to assert dominance over one another. Danny grabbed the gun in the final cutscene of Red Light. However, in the subtitles, it says that Leo rummages around and finds the gun. There is no picture of Judy. In fact, Judy isn't mentioned at all the entire level. As you head upstairs, Leo says he'll stay down here and do what he can.
Shit, more watchdogs coming in. I'll do what I can down here.
The watchdogs lines in the cutscene isn't finished, and the subtitles are different. During the final shootout, there isn't porn playing on the screen behind Danny, and the theater looks more dilapidated than it does in retail. The final cutscene isn't finished and has no dialogue, only subtitles. Interestingly enough, this mission is called The Honeypot and not Bee's Honeypot. The flashback of Danny and his wife arguing isn't in this version. The shadows in the mission don't seem to work properly. In the cutscene with Judy in the elevator, Judy's lines are different.
He's here. No fucking way. He's a fucking psycho. That was years ago. He barely remembers who I am.
And Dr. White makes a surprise appearance in the final cutscene. Up, and there she goes. Bye-bye, Dr. White. We'll see her in the finale. Danny's model in the opening cutscene is broken, just like in Mission 5, Best Friends. The models for the hunters are different. They actually remind me a lot of Cerberus from the first game. The mission plays out almost identically to the retail version, but you should be seeing gameplay from the alpha mission right now if you want to compare yourself. Danny is in his white outfit in the intro cutscene. Danny says, "My hands," but his hands are clean, and it's Leo's hands that are covered in blood. After the cutscene, you can see Leo in-game as he says 2 targets are harder to hunt as he runs off.
2 targets are harder to hunt. I'll see you at the train yard a couple of blocks from here.
Leo doesn't shout.
It's a trap! Get out of here! Run!
The hunter's lines are slightly different in both these scenes.
You are surrounded!
Send the chopper over to soften them up.
There is no debate. The Banjos were the greatest band of all time. Just because you go a dog
The damn brewery got out.
That don't make it no
We
better.
can't have gotten far. You two line up, cover this area. The chopper will do a circle.
Leo says, "Lucky for me, the helicopter decided to follow you."
Lucky for me, that helicopter decided to follow you.
The kid screaming for his daddy sounds way different and honestly way funnier in the alpha version of the game.
Revenge is sweet!
When reaching the train yard, there isn't any
almost there,
cutscene
Danny.
of the
Just
hunter
a block.
making a final stand before the final shootout. However, there is a cutscene of Leo walking up from behind the gate as the camera pans to the train car. Subsequently, there is no final shootout in this mission. This mission is soft-locked as they didn't implement the feature to open the gate doors yet, meaning the mission cannot be completed. However, the first cutscene is in the game and doesn't have any major differences other than the fact that Danny and Leo are floating in the middle of the air.
What are we doing here? There's a warehouse nearby, where the project keeps its old records. We're gonna destroy our past.
You can't destroy the past, Leo.
Come on. We're gonna need fuel.
The opening cutscene plays out largely the same. However, there is a 50-50 chance that the models bug out and you get something like this.
Keep it together, Danny.
I can't handle...
Danny is still in his asylum outfit. Presumably, they never intended Danny to change outfits, as it was never mentioned in the intro of Safe House. There's some more placeholder dialogue.
Lost him. To be expected. He was the very best. Are you ready?
IntSec has given us 2 squads, so yeah, we're ready.
Good. I'll bolt the animal lab from the inside. Remember, alive if you can manage it. If not, get the head to me as soon as possible.
There is a small cutscene showing the vent you were meant to open. When you enter the vent, you can see Dr. Pickman talking to the doctor, and in the retail version, he says this.
Subject A is far too dominant. If we take the bridge out now, the latent personality will be lost forever.
Only 170 hours? Not good enough. After 7 years, not nearly good enough.
However, in the alpha, his lines are different, and he says this instead.
The bridge was stable for 171 hours.
Not good enough. After 7 years, not nearly good enough.
After using the eye scanner, there's a scene of Dr. Pickman walking in and saying, but in the alpha, there's no dialogue, only the subtitles. There is, however, placeholder dialogue when you see Dr. Pickman run into the other room and tell the other hunters to start getting ready.
Time's here. Get ready.
Everyone ready?
There isn't any dialogue in the cutscene showing, but the subtitles are also different from the base game. The brainwash scene is also quite different, so let's just watch them back to back. Let me know in the comments which one you prefer, but I like the alpha version one myself. spooky, alright? When walking into the next room, there is a cutscene of Danny collapsing after Pickman says a code phrase over the intercom. He then comes to in the recovery room. In the alpha, this isn't finished and is just text on the screen. In the final version of the game, there's a short cutscene panning over to the nurse with the tranq gun. Leo then says, "We need Pickman alive."
We need Pickman alive.
This cutscene is still in the alpha, but Leo's line isn't. Dr. Pickman shouts to Danny not to listen to Leo in retail. It doesn't seem to be the case in the alpha, and he just tries to say the code phrase over again. Leo's line is the same when telling Danny that he'll handle Pickman.
I'll take it from here. You could be a little squeamish, you know?
But it is just placeholder dialogue. Danny is the model in the interrogation cutscene, and his glasses are glitched behind his head. The cutscene is exactly the same, except for at the end, there isn't the scene of Danny getting Leo put into his head.
Mission 12. Broadcast interrupted. The intro cutscene is largely the same, except for the small, neat little detail that Danny takes off his glasses and rubs his eyes, which for some reason isn't in the retail. Also, Hunter's dialogue is slightly different, but not by much.
For Danny.
Managing what has become a disaster. One personality in the process of destroying everything it comes in.
You start the mission with a katana, which makes sense in a way because Leo is seen killing the crew with one. Ironically though, the scene I just mentioned isn't finished in the game, it just has text on the screen. In the room where you kill the hunters, the applause can be heard, but the applause isn't in the alpha, unfortunately, it's only in the retail game. There isn't any large changes to the mission layout, but the 5 past high noon set is actually the set for the bitch next door. It's like walking into an alternate reality when seeing them side by side. That does mean that there isn't the short you can watch for the 5 past high noon.
This is the story of a ranch that lies between love, duty, trust, and hate. It sits just outside Heaven's Gate, cause every city is hell, and the kids are paid in blood. God lies, kids. Nature will kill. It's a ranch where sinners don't expect forgiveness, and a man lives alone with his demons soon. Listen for the blood. Listen for the bell at 5 past high noon.
When entering the garage, there isn't any cutscene that plays unlike in the retail version.
It's payday, boys! We got him for sure this time!
The intro to Altered State is completely different, and has Dr. White stabbing Danny in the back like in the retail version at the end. Only it's at the start of the level here.
Behind you! Leo? Leo? Leo!
The mission plays out almost identically to the base game. However, the outro is again completely different.
Leo! What is it?
You're too late. It's taken care of.
exactly as planned.
The scene of Danny waking up to Dr. White explaining the situation to him isn't in the alpha version of the game. As we go on through the levels, you'll notice the changes seem to be getting smaller and smaller. However, that isn't the case for Domestic Disturbance. This can be explained because Rockstar Vienna was actually working on this as level 3. The intro to Domestic Disturbance plays out quite differently.
I've got one last issue to resolve, Danny. I gotta do it by myself. Meet me at the safe house.
What then?
Freedom, my man. Freedom.
There are cartel cruisers from GTA 3 scattered across the map. You get a gas can from one of the garages and are meant to light some planks on fire to progress. No such thing as in the final game. There are 2 different SWAT models and some cut ones as well. The helicopter that chases you in retail is just plain green. However, in the alpha, it actually has the word CMPD on them, standing for, of course, Cottonmouth Police Department. There are also some Carcer City police cars in the mission. This is most definitely an accident, but I like to think that they called for backup from a neighboring city. Leo eventually says he needs to lose the cops. This happens in the alpha as well, but then there's a cut segment where you lure the cops away to scale the wall. A cutscene plays in everything. This isn't in the retail version, and it looks a little odd, so it's not too big of a deal that it was cut. You run through someone's house in the alpha on the way to your house. This is not in the retail version, and is actually a pretty neat feature that was cut. The outro is completely different. In the base game, it just awkwardly cuts to Danny standing over his dead wife, knife in hand. Whereas in the alpha...
Sweetheart, are you okay? What happened to you?
Everything's gonna be alright.
The opening cutscene for Personality Clash seems to happen after release therapy, which is the bad ending. The bad ending is also, for some reason, placed before the canon ending in the level select. The cutscene is a bit different. Mostly in the beginning, there's alternate lines for Danny and Dr. White.
Is it over?
Not quite.
I still don't understand. What happened to my house?
Torched. Pickman's orders.
Where are my kids?
Your kids are fine.
And my wife?
This is going to be painful, Danny, but I think you should see for yourself. This will help you understand why you must let go of Leo.
There's placeholder dialogue in the opening of the level.
Time to say goodnight, Danny. Mind there's no music wait to hit the bones. Don't worry, I'll take care of business.
As well as throughout the entirety of the mission. Leo says some lines that aren't in the base game.
You think you can kill me that easily? It's gonna take more than a few painkillers to shut me up.
The mission plays out largely the same, except for some missing triggers in it being overall an unstable mission. Also, the outro of Danny killing Leo isn't in the alpha, unfortunately. There's placeholder dialogue for Danny in the opening cutscene.
Rotten hell, Leo!
The mission plays out identically to the retail version. The cutscene before Danny's final boss has more placeholder dialogue, and then there is a line from Leo awkwardly cut from when he is praising Danny for killing.
Leo, you made it. I'm impressed, but your infection is gonna stop now. I don't want you in my head anymore, Leo.
You think you could get rid of me? You're a runt, Danny. Always have been, always will be. I've been waiting for this moment. Counting the seconds trapped inside your feeble mind.
I just have to ignore you, Leo. You know it.
I can smell freedom already. Just keep hammering them till they're all gone.
I'll fucking kill you, you psycho piece of shit! Fuck you, Leo! I'm sick of listening to your shit!
This is most likely where Leo accuses Danny of being a pedophile. That was found in the GTX editor. This is supported because Danny says the line found in the GTX script right after. There is some miscellaneous information that I couldn't find a place for that I will quickly be going over now before the end of the video. Someone in the Dixmoor Discord found a hostage animation that was meant for Judy and B's honeypot, along with some dialogue from Leo and the Hunter. Another person found in a GTX editor lines from Leo that seemed to be calling Danny a pedophile. Apparently, the History Museum had an intro, but no outro, and that sorority had both. There was a grappling mechanic, just like in the first game, that was removed. And finally, there was an original plan for Leo and Danny to be separate people. There is some remnants of that idea, with Leo being tied up in the outro for Altered State. Unfortunately, though, there's still more work to be done. This version of the alpha is incomplete. The leaker posted it in separate parts, meaning there's errors. For instance, there's two 12 files, as well as the fact it seems that this build isn't the one that Sorrent and Frinkler own. Sorrent believes that it isn't his version, as he noticed some things edited that weren't in his copy. Frinkler, however, believes that it is the same build, but is only missing some things. Either way, it's incomplete, and there's more to be done. Me and my team will be working hard to uncover the final build for the fans. I highly recommend downloading this build, as it will be linked in the description, as well as Frinkler's plugin. Please check it out if you're at all interested. With that, the video comes to an end. If you stuck around and enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to push this video out to as many people as possible. Share it with your friends so that they know the alpha is out there and playable. And please, please be sure to check out Nostalgic Banana and Innocent. Their work on this project was invaluable, and I couldn't have done it without them.